Mindfulness. That's mindfulness.
Also, Samala.
So first of all, Tashdale to all of you.
Yeah. Tatiring also any jet. The cousin was only Lam-Rim Tijura Tinima maintained drains.
So today we're going to continue from where we stopped on Monday.
Yeah. The cousin was a Kachichoya de Karakol Chungo resume. Jig Nambita to Guinale, Guginzi, the Kichikan Sanko.
So on Monday, the topic of our conversation, of our class, was regarding Buddhist philosophy. What are the qualities that a teacher needs to have?
Yeah. That they are Guginzi on the Namji, Tachik Gugin Senit Saman, Senit Dembas. Tindiji Kolia, the churches, but the Geshe was Gugi Hamba Pagina, the money again. Sigla Chechukar Sankurs, the Kachitras.
So the talk was about if it's an ideal teacher, to be ideal teacher, the best teacher, what constitutes, what characterizes a qualified teacher? Yes.
Yeah, but she dream also Chechu shared the Chechupachi.
So today we're going to the fifth quality, the fifth quality.
The Dinolia Karjilabshire in the Gensi Atelier, and the Nambi that took Kashana, and a Tenu Topas, Tenu Topi Shirapsco research. The Tonda Kares on Dotana, Chi Dame Pasina, Tindi Ganglia, and a Samlo Yonke, Ganglia, Jebachin Yonke, Content Indigo, Yam Yonkish.
So the fifth characteristic here, talking about a Buddhist teacher, a Buddhist spiritual master, is going to be, maybe someone has the translation in English, but it's to have the realizations. And realization here is specifically about selflessness. So the realization of selflessness.
Yeah. The Tindi called the Tachichana, just a Dame Pasiat. That the Dame Batalachatan Gini, Uncle Rimbando. Make Tarajatan, Chitumta and Alama Bocachis, in a tanda Tiring was a share that Chidam message. Tumta dead on tease, Tumta and the Sirsumas syndrome, Chidam Chidam message, Candisio. Tajichan just equal like that's young you see it.
So usually when we talk about selflessness, there are many types of selflessness. There are many different explanations according to each philosophical school of selflessness. And today we're not going to go into each one of these explanations look into this perspective, but we're going to look in general about what is the selflessness of phenomena of things.
And
also mainly through the perspective, for those who have already heard this name, mainly through the perspective of the Prasangikas, or the consequent school.
Yeah. The Chicchana that you saw Tinti down my Basia Cachet Koyona. The Chiang Chikoa Lentang des Mado, you said is of some Tangaratuna Chong. Kazenati Paki Gurion, Ingina Giron, the Tondati, Capici Gerjade, the Sosolia, Molia, the Kirk Jabjong Madashi on the Koa Lentang de Tessian. Nambi Jonganashi and Nashi buying by Susan William, Coajamba Jong the 2 days, $1, Toya, some days, but change you was.
And probably because when we translate a word from Tibetan to English, for example, here we have the word selflessness. And because already in our culture, with our background, we have a background for all these words. So probably when we hear the word selflessness, there's already some things that cross our minds. There are already some ideas that cross our minds, and these can act as an obstacle to the understanding of what in the Buddhist treatises, what they are talking about when they talk about selflessness.
Yeah, that the Gashade, that you don't need, and that Tamar said the young Gijina, the Imba, Tachikoa, Lamsa Koa Mara, young specialist. Jedon Timta Korong in Naloy in a TST Gonia, Shetam and Ramanda, we are squall and Nambitumta Korong in Naloy in a Tigan, Kual and Dam. Tana was under with Tambo Timta, my imba, that Tambo, the Kaja Quagation, that I imba.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this happens when we haven't been exposed to philosophies, or we haven't been exposed to these tenets, as we call it, to philosophical schools and views of any kind. So this can happen. And also when we have already been exposed to different views of different philosophy schools, this also can influence our understanding of selflessness.
Yeah. 다이는 다 드링아 순디니 마직 다 같이 투투 코 데원시 됐지 다 직 삼로 땅초 딘디지 초 등거 요 삼삼르시 당나랑 그리가지는 데스라티 토야 지금 데스 고단초 토야 데스 아 다디 강 데스 세본즈 토야 다 레반디 제가 요시
So but today I'm going to try to explain in this view in a very easy to understand way, in a relatable way, and that's my hope for today, to be able to explain this in an easy to understand way.
대형 다치 남지 슝거나 즉 동보 망보시 배쳤던 게 요래 추측 다다적 그 그런 게즉 다티서 상에 먹어야지 다치 돈도 미시 칼라고 드세요. 대형 지형 남지 아니 농 된지 듭치 망보시 요래 In
the scriptures, there are many high words, there are many philosophical words, there are many dharma words, very, very complex terms that they use in order to explain selflessness. And today we're going to try to leave them aside a little bit. We're going to try to go more into the meaning, the direct meaning of what they're saying, and also not using many scriptures or quotations or any of this.
다 딘디 강나 당봉 가서 삼로 직 딘디 당나 데스탑 데원도 다디 단단디 다메세 디강나 데셰제 갑리야 다메세 같이 시험데 다징아서 강사기 지미 다지 소차세 거라 손된 신신세 딘디 참마임바 취탐책 때네야 디까지 시에 연조실했어.
So on top of that, when we think of selflessness, when we think of the self or the selflessness, we're not only talking about living beings. We're not only talking about people, persons, and living beings. We're talking about the selflessness of all phenomena, everything that exists.
Tadi kachat levi kamna karla ore. Tachi chu kandeshi na kandeshi yoresi. Kachashi di chikche. Teni te yona matso namji ranshin ge matsoleya. Chik susu henji chik. Tela tatang kandeshi. Di kachin yene ore.
So then there are two aspects. There are two aspects. One is trying to see how these things, for example, how these things exist, the actual mode of abiding, the actual way that these things exist. And the second one is trying to identify what is the way that we spontaneously perceive this object. So these two are important. The way that it actually exists, and second, the way that we naturally, spontaneously perceive an object.
Yeah. Tadi kachat shionde, tanga so chu kandeji yotong kachat shionde, tanga so chi samlo tangke de ngaran so mitso samlo tang de chawra. Ta samlo tangke kanza de kandeji yore. Ane kanza de mayenge, ta kanza de san remese konala. Korang ki chulong la yonge, korang nyingkor la yonge. Ta chi ka chu kandeji na. Teso kandeji yore, tele maso ke samlo kandeji tangke yore se. Ikachashi.
It's okay, something like
Pena dagi kangli chu kandeji yongkore se, kachachi chongro, chu tsu yotang kandeji se. Tela samlo maso tatang kandeji yore kachachi chongyiba. Ta hens te kangli ya, tanke kansa ranyi kandeji yore. Ranyi kandeji yore se. Susu le ya tangbo, kandeji ngonsin chi yore se.
So then we try to analyze how is then an object exists, when analyzing how the object exists, and also we analyze how the object exists, and also how the subject exists. What is the way of existing of the subject, of the person?
Yeah. Tadi gauna ta tiri nga so tangbo kande sawo tang yin sin ra. Ta so nga so tang ta chi nda jor so na mambo shi lupsen mambo shi jang yo res. Ta manda so le nyam nyam be mambo shi res. This is someone who pasha. Ta kande chen sin de chono rangshin ke. 그래서 많이 바탕원에 저런 그 삼롱원이 저런 즉 아니 소소소소 내가 단단 간듯이 두세 어디가 하는 거지.
So what's the first way that we're going to think here? So the first thing to bring to our minds. So it's possible and it's true that everyone here has had a lot of education or studies or has had many experiences in your life. That's true for everyone here. But for the moment, right now, we try to leave these things aside. We put these things aside, all our background, all our studies, etc. And we try to analyze naturally, spontaneously, what is the way, what is the perspective, what is the way that I perceive myself? What is this I?
예. 다 내용데 다가 간디시레스. 돈다 소소소 맞아 상마가 다지. 맞아 상마 냠데 소소소레 맞아야데 간디시레스 상로시 타나 맞아야지. 대용데 다 맞아야데 다 뭐니 소소 심댕리야 간디신 증거요. 다 뭐니 간디시레스 그런 게 집전데 간디시레스. 다 대집다고 요레스.
Yeah, so analyzing here, we're all together, and if we try to analyze what is this I, what are the ingredients? What is this I made of?
Yeah. 다이나 삼성은 와서 당하 컨디션에서 지간주의 qable나 다양직 남기 맞출이야 소소 용서 지다 지 아니 가다 디치젠도 다양 딩거젠도 강들 소소 다직 다 칼로다 센서 잡고 이모션 지소 있니 직 소소 직 지그레스.
So usually when you try to analyze, when you try to identify what is the I in this sense, then we get into the field of feelings. So we have the feelings of some feelings are happy, some feelings are not happy, and also through emotions we try to understand what is this feeling of an I.
Yeah. 다이나요. 다양 원이 그때 지소소 용서 소소레제나 대양 자마다 그치 뭐라.
But if we ask ourselves when analyzing all these feelings that we have, can we, if we ask ourselves if these feelings that we can feel, they're ourselves, they are I, that's hard for us to posit. That's hard for us to accept that the feelings are the I itself.
단도되나 강들 직 삼로지 가르던 거. 다 소소 원이 배 라니트 직 로라 샤강 나지야데 디리진도 섭섬 소소가 다 직삼로 당나 디 간데시 샤기도 샤당데 간데 샤자무나 다 샤당데 소삼로 당나 다디 모니 간데시리 샤세 다디 페타모 장장 그 간데 삼로시다 타모 장장 데시지 잡나 다 간데시 요사레세 데레스.
So in brief, yeah, when this I appears to us, we analyze how is this I appearing to me in the most subtle way that the I appears.
Yeah. Yeah. Pena ta soso samlo ngola rani wanzin che jingurwa soso la nawa ngazia de dindishi re samsa nawa shi
Samlo ngola
soso samlo la shaya shi soso lo ngola ya rani shaya shi ra ta de kandisi shayo re kandisi zumkundu se der soso wanzin kandisi tu se te tambo ngaso soso chi 답시 제인세 소소 컨디션 양 소소 위치 딘디 샤기도 제야시 양 저서 나야 대시 잠케나 배야 혼도 생각서 봤지 삼르치 엉이 삼나 나제 딘디 지레 샤스
아니 그런 소리
어디 티나요 고소양 아니 렌잠케나 야고요라 야
Okay, so trying to see the way that this I appears to you, because the I appears in a way or another. But can anyone share what comes to you when you try to look at the I in this way? What is I? Who am I? Can you share what's your experience?
I to me is impermanent. I is impermanent and it's not by itself. It depends on the other factors. And we can't live, the I cannot live independently. It all depends on other conditions.
Yeah, that's the actual way of things. So that's the actual way of nature. But this thought usually comes as what he said now, a secondary thought. It comes usually through studies. So that's something you read, you study, and then you have this thought, oh, the I exists in this way. But if we try to leave aside all these words and all these studies, what we have studied, all our experiences, and we try to say in a natural way what comes as a raw, how the I appears to you.
Yeah. Is a person, just a person, a human being, and with many relations, because we live in the society, so we have many connections, networking, like parents, even parents, siblings, and friends, people around us, and the connection with whole world.
That's that thing when it's saying as a kind condition near is it condition near is in the Mombosil Tende, Chizol Pension thing also condition your is it. When it's a race.
Yeah, that's also the actual way of things. That's we are dependent, we are related to all the society, to everyone else. Yes.
But the data any home Jubanala, Jubanala, Carson, Tangasu Tambo Maki on Dick, Tambo, Nas, Susumaki, Gimatan, that's a Gimatani, Tambo Nasi, Kachish, Nazi, Na Tombo Nashi, Dalashins, Nazi, Samloji Corny, Susulation Chap, Susila Chapati. Dini Gillian, okay, that don't.
Okay, so something that Chandrakirti has said in the introduction to the Middle Way. So he said that as soon as we're born, we get this feeling of I. So we have this feeling of I, and on top of this feeling, attachment grows.
Yeah. The Gilia, Jini Kachini Basanada, the Jini Ngai zero. So Karayana, that Tini, the Samlodun Kor, anything I is at Solion Chapati.
And then as soon as this attachment starts to be present in the mind, then the concept of mine also appears to this person, to this I.
Taina Tambo Nga ze Sablon Koi, Captilla. Tanga Chindra Yuzia, Tanga Chishambala Ten Yurizia. These Samlo the Masayo Maris. Tambo, can you body Samlo? So de Chicksukuna to a menjo. That Karsakana to make wrong.
But the way that this I first appeared there, before the mind, before this relationships, there is this appearance of this I, and this I, it appears.
To make mother teaching Chamba Mambosia Taki, Congressman Najin and Jeva, the Yoder, Andrea Yunjo, the Samluna Yongumare.
Yeah, so before this mind, right? Before the concept of mind, so this I, it appears without all this dependence, without this relying on, as you said, society, without relying into this mind and this thing. So the I first appears as this independent entity to us.
That they must all naturalism, so Ranjingi, Shambas and Jama Mayba, so Manzinchi, Samlode, the Ranjong, the Teres.
So that's the way that it's said to be identified, is naturally a reason I, which is independent before the.
Yeah. That deal is some low, she can say, this some low the Tanda and actually you are there. Ranching and also this some low the court. That chick some low Nibashi town the oh, that Shambalati or that. And it's you Momboshila Martin and Soto Mare said, some low Niba Madon as a tambo, some low the Katpina. So the second to make round. So
the first. So this thought is always influencing. So this thought is always influencing this root thought of the I, of this independent I. So this is the first appearance. And then on a second level, on a second event, on a second level, then we can think all this, oh yeah, I depend on the society and I cannot stay without the society, etc. But first there's this feeling, this pure feeling of the I as independent.
다 저치 가르스는 당부 소소 랑종의 소소리야 삼로시 텐지지 요하게 소소 아니 지 원진 지어라 강사시 여당대 컨디션 세컨을 때메가 하와시 원진 지 팅고인이 셀 연조지를 면조지를 지어드레스.
So yeah, after we if we can identify this feeling or this thought or this idea of this independent I before this relationship, this independent I, then we can ask ourselves if this is actually the case.
다들 가슴의니서 면조지랬다 의니서 요레시 지어드려 그 딘지 좀반하시 그 담보랑 중게 삼로 나나신디 의니서 요르데 요 마레스 다 메나 이나 삼로 디니신 코르데 같이나 맞소리 요요 렌지지 다데 삼로데 컨디션 매바치 코그레스 이 삼로데 코르나 맞소리 견제도 지는데 저와니 바용데 이 삼로데 맞소리 매바치도 지는데.
Yes, so we can ask ourselves if this way that the I appears to us in this deepest way in our minds, the way that the I appears, first we can ask if this is the real case or not the real situation. If it's not the real, if there is a way, because this is always spontaneously with us, if there is a way to transform it. And also we can ask ourselves, do we need to transform it? Like, is this bad for us or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Tade country is only chinta. Tandade. Ta country is only tandade. Tagi samlo nipa shitwa, samlo nipa koyate. Ta chingazede tinto ranching yo mare. Ranching mena, ta country shamba mombojin tente yoresete. Tati tente yatang, chishamba la tente se, tente kong la samlo tangni. Tati kong la lobyong chetini, maso yang the gum. Ta ani gum se yate. Te gum jane, ta ko ranching taki tambo henji samlo nongshing, ti samlo de ya ani ta karso kombe tani. Koyang ani ranching le to ya. Ti nga tsumu yirte chikres.
So our goal here with all these meditations on selflessness and etc. So before we talked about the two levels, right? So there's this first instinct, like instinct or spontaneous, natural thought or idea or feeling that comes to us of this I. And then there's the second one when we have more time to think, and then we can think of all, as you said, all the way we are dependent on many things, on our body, etc. We have many ways of thinking, of reasons to use. And then our goal is to use these second moments. So we have this, we all have this. We use these second moments to think and reflect and meditate on selflessness until these moments start to get closer and closer and closer. And then they become one. Then it becomes spontaneous to have the correct way of that the self exists.
Yeah. Tadagi gongshia na jing. Chik we tamakema tani nga se samlo shikor. Ti jilishini ngai se samlo shikonde. Ti nga sole tonda kartung yor. Ti nga sole lapjana shikarte yor lobjonto. Asole kar lawe yor se. Ti nga se ta ngai se tinika. Ani chingma imba. Ti nga so ti goni. Tagaran chunchu goni nga so jangsares.
So before we were saying that, as Chandrakirti has said in the introduction to the Middle Way, so he said that first the I, the feeling of the I appears in you. And then after this, then there's attachment, and then you have the concept of mine. So what is the meaning? What is the main meaning? What is the main thing to take from this quotation, from this thing that he said? He's saying here that since you are a small child, almost since you were born, you already had the feeling, you already had the experience that mine and I are different things. They're not one.
Yeah. Right. Tang ngai se unde, ngai se, nga tang ngai se unde, nga se ade chik kalorta. Ko ane deshi chik semni. Shamba ngai wa se unde korang den reya yon baatish. Tangbo ne di kachat chungsares. ngaze de koron ta kiman sha koron mendo sha chene shamba sama koron de ngayo tsama de ta ngayo wala chiga su zikumo kane ngayo mambo yang go ta la pa da kamba pe ma ba ta ju tsama nga ma yin ba de chuchu kane ngayo ma de chuchu kane de tsama nga ma yin ba de ma su ranging ge samlo na yores.
Yeah, so we have this feeling, usually we have this feeling of the eye, okay, eye here is this as at the center, and we have all these varieties of phenomena that we have put into the realm of mind. So, and we have already the feeling, the experience that these things are related to the eye, but they're not the eye. And here we can expand this, for example, as we say, also in English, we say my head, my body, my feelings, my hand, my feet, etc. We use these words.
Yeah. Ta na shinga ta chik ani ta zipong ge chashi tsama nga ma yin ba ke chikshi. Ta dini samlo le kasam ta kasam ngol nga zu ka chi chong. Chik samlo le ya sim na sin jong se ye pe ma bo che. Sin jong ko na le ya nga zu ta chik nam ji cham si ri chikshi. Te ma yin be nga zu le no ki nyo mo ge cho de res. Yang cham si ta chik nyo mo cho ka ma parma ge samlo de de. Ta so tsama de Okay, so
here, yeah, we can see this happening within the physical body. We can see this phenomenon of mind happening when we refer to our physical body. And also, if you go to the side of the mind, maybe some of you or most of you have already studied about mind and mental factors. So there's this division in Buddhism with their virtuous mental factors, for example, compassion, love, etc. There's also negative mental factors like attachment, ignorance, hatred, etc. There's many. And there are also many neutral mental factors, aspects of the mind. All of these surroundings, all of these things, they also belong to the realm of mind, not the eye.
Yeah. Ta de only ta nga so jang ni ko to le ma yin ba. So chi jang shan ni chik sam lo na le. Lo jong chen. Study chen ni so ta nga ko le nga se di. Chik di ji re ze. Te ko jang shan ju. So lo jong chen. Te ma yin ba so ran shin ge ta gi se na shin zum ba de. Kan de zeng ge yo re zong de. Ta len ki nga se be second la demi rang va kono ngi tile shin ngi yor ta ti yor yo mare se ti ka chetres tamala so
and leaving aside all the things that we have studied and that we have heard and all the concepts we have already created as to what can be this I that is at the center of all this realm of mind, leaving aside this, we can get used to. We can try to identify what is the most natural, the most spontaneous way that this I appears to us.
What I didn't nga se the second to make wrong so samlo le samde I tinte samlo tatante tan do mare se ka chetir ta nam bi ta to gon ka shim de tinte samlo to nor jore ta se ta de ngo so nam ji ani da de ban sam ba se
so if we can identify this this I that is not dependent on anything, this I that is not dependent on anything, and then there is a second moment of thinking if this is a mistake or not, if this is a mistake in a wrong apprehension of the I, or if it's a correct one. In Buddhism, we're going to say that that's a wrong apprehension of the I. That's a wrong way of understanding the I. And and this is what is called the self-grasping, and this the way of grasping in this sense, the I, self-grasping.
To make so tatang shi do second ma tu ba me second de me jo tatang shi do ti tatang di no jo res ko ta na shin di yur yo ma res ke chi te shi mo ni da me ba se ti le ko ko res.
So Buddhism is going to say that this way of seeing the I, so this this way of apprehending the I, of not depending on anything, on being independent, this not existing, that's what is going to be called selflessness.
Yeah. Namji
So this is the understanding of the word selflessness. We're not saying that selflessness is there's no I, there's no you. It's not just this. It's not that we don't exist. It's not that I don't exist, you don't exist. That's not the way. Yes, so then about how this I exists. So there's a way that this I exists, and then it's going to be similar to how Perry has explained. Depending on many other factors, this I can come to existence. And Rika has a question?
Yeah, because he explains that like even small babies have some kind of identification of I already.
Okay.
Even short after they are born. So is this something that we take over from previous lives?
Yeah, yes. Yeah,
Yes, the way that Buddhism explains that this was created through habituation, and not only a short-term habituation, something that from beginningless lifetimes, and I've been using the translation spontaneously from Lengi. Another one is innately. Yeah, innately. So it's Kamiya that has been crossing lives and lives. And you bring with your birth.
Because like in the last verse we read something completely different. So it's still funny that we still hold on to this idea, even if it's so obvious that like I'm not an end anymore or whatever I was before.
Yeah, it's good. Yes,
yeah, good.
Yeah,
good thinking. On top of this, there's a lot of explanations inside the Buddhist treatises. Yes, there are many explanations about this, and they say that, for example, everyone here in this room, we have the thought of I. We have first the concept of the I, and as a second thought, as a second thing, we can start thinking, I am Rika, and then you think I am an ant. I don't know if the ant thinks that, or you think I am a human being, etc. So as subsequent thoughts, not as this root thought of I. Yeah, according to the Buddhist philosophy, this I comes from beginningless lifetimes. This thought of I. Andrea, you raise your hand. Do you want to talk? You can talk.
Yes, I have a question on this. So if this inherent or spontaneous way of thinking of the I comes from also habituation of beginningless lives, is there a way that we can teach children a better way to understand the I? So my little sister is like, my daddy, my sister, my. And I don't know if there's a better way to, since they're young, try to help them detach from that mind, that I so solid.
Okay, so how to teach children about the I? Yes.
Yeah, the correct view, like the.
Yeah. Di tawa yanda di buku chunchungla dia di tablam mixaji gyureve yana di yureve. Na konsola yana ina.
Ta pena kadiri tiwa tingi
Anti wadi pera kungi pinga di buku chungchungre.
Yes.
Ani komdi ngai mie pama mie pala mie maladi.
Sagres,
Ogire.
some
Ani
Korea.
komadi karida da ngoni kantas iyo. Dame pakola di tia labia. Di tablam mixaji. Iyo fantastic.
Ni pama ni penjasi samlan ko. Te samla te kyon rese kashi maris. Te to kyon marwa. Te to kyon maris.
Yeah. So first, when he says or she, sorry, when she says or he, my dad, my mother. So this thought itself, this is not a fault. This is not a mistake.
Yeah. Ta ina ya maso kare yore zamde. Tindi ke samlo lang ya jamjong le. Ta chik bu chinchi mara ngara zui na. Kare yore zamde. Susu chik zawa chimbu jin zenge yore. Maso chang ma. Susu zawa chimbu ma yi susu win jinyen de. De yin yo. Suya zawa chimbu zenge. Zawa chimbu zamba zamna dikresi. Nenga chimbu mara. Ta ina kante yore zamde. Zawa chimbu zenda pena nga zawa chimbu re. Kyorong zawa chimbu re. Nga zawa chi shambali nga tagari. Shambali tene nga zawa chi chisho nga resi. Ina bungne nga su te samlo pe tenki yore si.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this thought, thought of, when you said my mother, my father, and also on the background, we have also the thought that first I am very precious, and also what is related to me, for example, my relatives close to me, like my father and mother, they're also very precious. And that's also not a mistake. So if you think that you're precious, etc., that's also not a mistake. It's when the thought evolves, when the thought becomes, compared to his dad and mother, my dad and mother, they're more precious. Compared to Geshe Phuntsok, I am more precious. So that's that's a mistake that we have been carrying. That's a way of thinking that comes very naturally. Actually, that's the spontaneously, innately being carried from lifetimes.
Yeah, that the samlo tang the susu, and it in a sort of Hanjong Yoshayate. Kotele ko manichana that the jil damasolo Johnson kotechi mare says some go chower the tambo ranchong yate shik chesher tub chesher matsulia and shikintia mashu dite words influence shichet ranchong some cario but matsong thinking the magwe being actually shiki chesher dite word.
And this thought that comes in this natural way, this thought of, compared to him, I am more precious. All these thoughts come spontaneously. Later in life, we find other ways of thinking. We learn to think in this way, this thing. But this spontaneous, this natural is still the biggest influence in our life, in our actions. Yeah, and all problems also arise from this. Yeah, but how to teach small children?
Yeah, it's just a little
bit hard.
소소 ranchung yoa de kung pe dongdo amsa me nga zo de chimbu de ya cheonde ane jetang bugle samlo de yona yang pigi mingena ra cha chando pena khala de zanye shu thode na ji kapti pigi lenka do mare kapti nyagu mare me ya chimbu cha bu chi na kapti pe ka yemba de ta cho chi nga zo dine lo yong tsle chi do.
Yeah, so children, the way they usually behave, so yeah, usually children, they are, for example, when they have a toy and they think this is my toy and they grasp it, so this is my toy, or if so many things, they just grab things, they don't think much about things. So this is spontaneous, this natural way of grasping at the I and mine, it's very, very evident with the children. They just show it. As we grow older, we start to realize that this behavior, that this natural self-grasping puts us into is not so well seen. So we hold ourselves a little bit more. We create these other filters to our actions. For example, we're not just going to, we see a food, we want the food, and we know that we cannot just grab someone else's food, but a child just grabs the food, right? And this and this watching these children having these behaviors can be a good lesson for us to learn about this natural self-grasp.
Samlo kari yopa kora chisen nangse pugi chinshu. Tichik zemdong na ngatsu karsena. Ngoni susu ti samlo te pang thoyo resena. Pang yo mari na jamlo pa bini. Koranjong ya ta bi. Ani chingda cha cha mi nge na ya. Chi nyenji wo yendo kabo jima dongga cherim. Jamlo delepe changma yo de. Tingasu ti cha de.
Yes, usually children they don't have filter. They whatever they think they say, and they just act like this in the world. And we as grown up, it's not that we have abandoned all these childish emotions or thoughts, but they're still in the background. We learn to put them somewhere, and we just learn how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Pugu di loga tsere gewani bachetik mampo sunsang pugu chumchum du chikchina lo ge pardo tampo pugu di so gonga gapna jana di yakorisha kangeserna pugu di so zambulin nangla Pogudco loge du gongabna jana jela zambulin nanga mar kyonye yungi mare wo
Logi nesumi ana logi padu
kontanga
Logi
all I'm saying konki chura di kadu di janati di nyere di chura di chikchina nye samgidu chikchina di lo chudang di chikchina jana jiri di lo chunchung Yana the Pinto
So it's from 8 years old. You said that his holiness said from 8 years old, like 9, 10, or 8, 7, 6, 8, 9, 10. Yeah.
His holiness say I am many teaching hair. His Holiness said every if all world all children age 8
years old, yes.
Learning what possible meditation and after never coming war in world. And I'm thinking before this woman asking and possible small children this explain this nere di lapime before me asking how old is this children?
Okay, so so she's asking she was curious about how old is the person that you're talking, because His Holiness Because His Holiness has said that from 8 years old onwards, it's very good if children can learn to meditate. If from 8 years old onwards, children can start to learn how to meditate, that's very good, because these children are the future, and if they are good in meditation, we're not going to have wars. And she said that if the person you're talking about is before 8 years old, is like 6, younger, then we can just leave. Maybe there's not so much benefit in meditation. So, yes.
Yeah, that's it. More Tiwati. The Puchinju didn't but more no knee, Martin service.
I need
Yakun, but she said, yeah.
How old is your relative?
I think 2 years.
2 years
Yeah,
old.
2 years. Yeah.
2 years old.
Yeah. But they know in a page
Very small.
Yeah,
yes,
very small. Kidaning was a touchy. And the convention son de Chinju, boy Chinjus, no so the antachi Chamsi Korta, Yarab Josan. Corso Ranging, Rangi Chinju Kane, Taki Kane Janashi. Krangazo Samlo Kariana, Koras Petsama Sanjari. Tenji Kanayoba the Tungri. That thing also condition the young, you saw Jonchis, they beg it. Lopsoti. They know no needs, Chinju in but so condition of city to receive. And there,
Yeah, so His Holiness usually advises, His Holiness the Dalai Lama usually advises, for very young children to focus on advices advices about love, compassion, because they have a very pure mind, they have a very easy to absorb, very pure mind.
They know that more than the Tia, when the low chinju sure enough. Tangazo tendo desole yachi, Tantan, Tantangazo Nashing, so catch at this. Tanda the Daze, the Munzichetan, the so this. Usually, Mason, the test borders. Yes, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, in the thing. She to summaries.
But then about the subject that we're talking here, like selflessness, then maybe to explain to a child of 2 years old, it can pose some challenges. Like I wouldn't know how to. It's not easy to.
Yeah. I know was a cheap and a Puchinju in a Korongi Timotia in a so to Tapo Chetanshura, take a liam. Thinking about Choranga Yaponia, Gora, the Choranga, the Red as the end of Tindig Lobsotina, the Korong Village, Benachik, the Korong teaching in Deep Dojina, the Apo, the Choranga, the Chorongi, Aponia, Gore, Choranga Chinguri and all of Sotendona, Koranga thing easy at the Shikcher to Uro. What the Mayimba, that chick Neona, Neona, that's question bachelor, Colea, year, Colea, things here. Shambala Nyam the Simothy chair, Nichana, Kukarina, Shambala, Pentoyando, some not Shikcher to grow.
Yeah, but then when this child, for example, goes to play, when this child is playing, then there are different ways that you can take care of this child. So you can make it more individualistic. So so this is your toy, this is your thing, this is you don't need to share, etc. Or the toys, for example, if they are more shared among the community, or if the children is playing with all their children too, and the children learn to share, that can be beneficial.
So there is mathematics on the mess.
Apart from this, I don't know what to say. Maybe someone who has more experience and then later can.
Yeah.
Like a question in the other direction. So let's say we work on our selflessness, how to find the balance to still not give up on ourselves. Because I sometimes hear the argument from Buddhist people that, oh, I cannot be happy as long as there's other people suffering. I have to give up everything I want or what is good for me. I cannot be happy because I have to give to everyone else. And then they are obviously suffering and getting mentally sick and stuff. So how do we practice selflessness without losing our health, it seems to be a weird balance, and
So how do we practice selflessness, but we still care for ourselves? Be like
Yeah,
this.
without losing our own like mental health, body health, like we cannot just because someone like else needs something and they ask us for it, like give up everything. You know what I mean?
Hakusung.
Sama
Dami
raja.
pakantas ni amlen che gore. Ani ngaran sa susu da po gyab gore.
Yes.
Pinang zamang sago ani gyam sa chego. Pinang ngaran sa ditsa tachelo chikmaina. Ani pinang kirang rupa gona. Ani mikasheti oma rupa chego. Sui na yang rupa chego ani susu da po gyab gimare. Sam yongire. What's the sign?
Malala.
Gantas balance shegore.
So lutang chen sikachire.
Susolo tang, yeah, susolo tang ire ya.
Tanda dame ba se kachati shiyo na. Tanda dame ba nyamne che tang taki gamne shwa na. Tambo so wani samlo na so kante zum ga tu se. Ti tambo mozen ko et pikichi kores. So samlo ding na. Rani kante chi tu se. Mo se. Ta tenta wa tin du ta me tu se. Te mena ti ta dang ne nor da wasam samlo te ta ko. Ti ta dang ne drumen da wase. Ta tende chi mena ona nga ni yo ne yore. So ta kante chi yore se onde 아니 다 samlo nipa de oda tambo samlo tangi nonjore ndo asiti skala matuba tinejire ndo ta kandeji tu zonde ta mambo jile tende shasi te samlo tambo de tango.
Yes. Yes, so going back to what you said about the practice of selflessness. So in the practice of selflessness, the first thing that to do is to identify what is this deepest, this most subtle level that you have this I, that you think of this I. So after identifying this, then you see whether this thought or this concept is correct or incorrect.
Chesa ta susu ne samlo tangtang ne nori yon joti samlo tangtang tangpo samlo tangtang shen dara ni mindusi me tang kar tangpo samlo tangya de sukang na matun kishi mandusi samlo de kogara len jizu yon joti ta de me na ta rani kari jodi chamba shi na ten shasi mambo chik ta chamba ten se hondi chi chulo kachama susu we ta zik pong re ane samlo tangtang chamba mambo shi dresa ta tindi jila tende nga yore se tangpo yang susu yon jo nga di mazin chiko.
Okay, so yeah, so then after you can negate, you can see that this other way, this wrong way of conceiving the I, of independent I, doesn't exist. Then you have to cross. Then the second thought is to see, how does the I exist? So what's the way that it actually exists? And then we can see this I existing in a dependent way. So not talking about dependence on external things, but dependence, for example, on our body, on our feelings, on our thoughts, etc.
Yeah. Ta mo shambala tama so ta tindi nga te tambo ta nga tindi chi shambala te ni yobe nga te ta te zao chimo ta te zao chimo na tindi nga te so de ta pecho kana stang he se te jiwa te ta te pecho kana te zao chimo yimba tanda ta ji jina chu so jang na so Lam-Rim go le le tanju tunchen se tanju miliram boch tanju nyeka se te gani sama ta te gari tsawa chibu chakri tsawa chibu te gani mi mambo shila pento dhruya ngal nipa tusi te hondi mi mambo shila pento dhruya zandi susu lutang chene ane pe kacha maari ta te gani chi pechu tango.
Yeah, so after, if you identify the way that this I exists, so this I acting in independence in many other factors, you identify this I, and this I is something very precious. This I is something very precious, and the I that exists. And later in the Lam-Rim, we're going to get, maybe some of you have already heard of the precious human rebirth, the precious human life with all the freedoms and etc. So then, after this is the next topic in the Lam-Rim. So in this topic, you identify why your condition, your situation now is so valuable. How much potential, how much power you have in order to achieve the benefit of other beings.
Yeah. Tati jimi ti tsawa chimbure, ti mamambo shile pento chungure, pento dhruya tenjire. Ti jimsanga ti tsawa chimbure lagro. Ti hondi mi mambo shamba shile pento gore la hondi, pento ayate, ani 펜도 컨디지트 그래서 펜도 저당들 가서 직단 다른 컨디션에 주시 주시나라 카운터 소소 이잠발라 롭소 딘디게네 펜도 데 마인 베다치 미티비야 암지 직자라로 배찬로 딘디 펜도체 더 펜도 마모시고 이는 데 펜도 투에기 니바 연계데 루당 제정데 베드가네
Yeah, so then we're going to recognize, we're going to identify this I or this life as something being very precious. Why is it very precious? Because of all the potential, all the capacity, the power that we have to help to benefit other people, right? So how do we achieve this benefit of other people? There are many ways. You can give advices, you can talk to people, you can teach people, you can give money to people, you can give food. There are many methods that we can use to benefit people in this life. But because this is so precious, if you have such a precious thing and you just abandon yourself, if you just sacrifice yourself, or you just let yourself go in the sense that you were talking, then you're not able to achieve this goal. Then you throw away these very precious conditions that you have.
Yeah. That donda garisana. That tindi shambajile pento penna. That penson ranga sochi. Mijiliya pechaga. Pechandro tindi gunti chenja pento doyena. Soso tambo pechaji. Sa gore ma. Soso jene masa ne mele pechag pento sena. Yonga koromendo. Tena jita te garisana. Soso mele jembeng samlo tae. Loso tena yana chikarigane tini. Soso ngone ya tanga so namji shede deres. Ta chamsi kontrina. Soso chamsi nyamneji. Soso te tiglo jongde yana. Soso ge semba chipoya. Ti juni mij mabojile pendo. Ti kachati shigurs.
For example, one way of benefiting other people, giving them money. So if I want to give money to someone, first I need to get money, of course. So first I need to work, I need to get money for myself, and then I have the power to give money. So in a similar way, if you want to benefit anyone, you also need to, for example, you meditate, you practice love and compassion, and then if you can achieve a happy mind for yourself, if you can achieve this state, then you're in position to help other people to achieve a happy mind.
이노양 다치가래 소소의 총이 야지 당해디 가르치 했던 거래 당발에 소소의 맞을 다치 라니 소소에 아주 참말에 셈바다니 머리를 소리 나네 배 셈바든도 상로 나네 다치 상로 남는 거야 아니 직감에 뭐버텨야 다티 간데 지는 아주 동네 지도 대 당보 때르스 대 소소들이 갑자기 아버지한테는 미치리네 시에식으로
Yeah, so first, if we look into our daily lives, it can happen that we see that there are many thoughts that cross our mind that agitates it a little bit, or that bring problems to us, or incorrect ways of seeing things. So if we see these things, then yeah, the first step is always going to be trying to reduce this, trying to have it better for yourself, and then you can have it better, do it better for others. Yeah.
Yeah, pena benzo no shana pena tamichi sosobe longsa bo shushina longsa kondosa dik longsa kondosa chochonri kondosa di soso mache so yewa de maso gore ina ta de kondo me waso gore launde ta de kande so gore ta di tiwa le
Mishemba gi
mare soso mishemba ji soso be kondosa bo shina soso kondo be mikashi be longsa bo namsa sundosa chocho Kondo samati susuli noba chiwiwa. Susu noba maji mishambaleya machiyozoya. Tinga soha koiri. Ina ta kondo de kanichi meba chikurisi. Tate te kondo penchun samri. Tate tsangma shamba tsangma. Ani nga sula noya samlo lopa mabu shingura. Tate kanichi meba so korisi. Ta nga so nenga onde tikse tirita.
Yeah, for example, just giving an easy to understand, we all know that anger is something negative. We know that anger has the power to make other people unhappy, not only ourselves, it makes other people unhappy. And we think constantly, okay, if you're a person that gets angry very easily, you think, oh, how do I get rid of this anger? But not only anger, there are many other different types of thoughts that harm you in a way or another, in a coarse way or in a subtle way. So yeah, all of this thinking, how can I first identifying it and then correcting it.
Tati tonda the country is only controlling on some mega carcheco. Never check over research. Chickachi the part chick color. Control the part, cut the suso with Zengachi. Cut the pane chick nolo patsuni, cachet, ticachet maris. The cachet up in a chunijina. Chuchi Tahazi Pakudane, Namjiko Carmena Carchine Paluimudo, the Dori. That take Penachi was a calorta. Captive Pagani, was a conversion on Mason, conversion only Anil Ya and the Junior good Jabris and old Kachichena, Tinto Mari. Control card, control ya, you must control my own attention going out. Control Nalo Patsuni, take tang in the Chuni, control chicken mens and pets. Zengaches, purchase in Engineer, suppress, DJ Maris. Takarcho Corzundi manage session, connection, resolve simmering. The country chin it. And it that day, Niembo Tamlam Jikijini.
Yeah, and then, for example, going back, talking about the anger. So one method that we can apply, that sometimes we apply, is by force. So we see that anger is not something good, and then just like in a house, we lock the door. We don't want people to come. We just lock the door, close, and nobody comes. So can we do this? Can we just forcibly? Can you just, as you said, suppress or repress this anger? That's not a very good method. So we have to manage it through antidotes, know how to apply the antidotes.
Tambo country, Mazo Salano country, Salone country, Shagido. The Tambo so Tomo Jank is some like ships up or down. That day, Najin do Mento, Tamena, the Canadian, the Tatan de Megaso. So Captive Dame Basis, and not you some Maris, you Marilla, some corner. Yeah,
we have to know how to play with the causes and conditions, how to play with this, how to unmake this negative emotions. For example, as we were saying before about selflessness. So first we have the first step is to identify what is the self, how is your feeling of the self, and then you think that you have other steps of thinking. But if we just sit down and we say there is no self, there is no self, there is no self, just try to force it, just try to directly go to selflessness, that's very hard.
Yeah. The only socialia, Chick Dowsy at that on the so Chick Ranjong was a Ranjing so Chick Young, my young so Tatan Chick. That Chick Love Young Chenny, Dowsy at Tatan Yu. Love Young Chess on you the Chick thing as a young Sharitan, young Nanjing Australia, some learn on a tea, come to show Martina. She had some remote influence.
And then there are two ways. There are two ways that we have this this feeling, this idea of the I, of the self. There is this spontaneous, natural way of appearance of the I, and there is also the one that comes from studies. And unless we habituate, unless we really familiarize ourselves a lot with this and make the connection within ourselves and what we learn through studies, then the influence of the natural, the spontaneous way that we perceive the I is going to be many, many times greater than the influence of the studies that you get.
Yeah.
Anyone has any question?
Yeah, and
there's no question.
Yeah, teaching Sibon Machayo. Then eating the shade of death. There's got total thing on it, so Sibon join in the middle. And the chick down may pass and over down. The chicken also saw down on the shit and the somebody Sibon to join in the middle.
So this way of explaining here about selflessness and about the self, was it clear? Was it clear to understand this explanation?
지금 mambo shivjin shesong sine kwe tsemen de seshi. Chasong na pesagra.
Because if I have talked so many words, but it wasn't understandable, then it's a bit sad for me.
Cool. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. 어때 오늘 다 컨택 데이터 직다 지만에 직 다음에 봐 남비 다음에 봐세 라고두스 티 돈다데 당가라 다 지만에 다 저선 삼로나 간디스탄고 그래서나 지 남비 따르나 다음에 봐세 지 라고두스 다티 딩어서 지 기용가다 다데 쳐세 때 봐세 같이 말해서 다치는 너가 속에 남지 라진 그 삼로나야 나세드 간디셔도 티샤가 나진디 요리요 말이지 티카세지린도 와서 섬게 상로지 코르토 코레스 대에는 미치니 시나요 emptiness 지금 다음에 봐세 거기까지 신도나 데스크 과시리 그래.
Yeah, so later something to carry from this class for when you think about selflessness or what the Buddhists talk when they talk about selflessness, thinking that it's not the non-existence of I, it's not the non-existence of you. It's a non-existence of this specific way that the I appears to you that we talked about, this natural, spontaneous way.
Yeah, that the social tatang chikche. That tini kachinipa, that tindina manso, chulola pata kale. Chita soso nyingona, that chichala pe mamboyori. Teson maso kanista gores. That the anchi jansanju maiba. Senchi ranjing maso kanista.
Just nice.
Okay.
Yeah, so then first, seeing this feeling of the I, and then in the second moment, when we look outside and then we see all the things that are related to us, all the things, and then asking ourselves, how does it spontaneously, what's the first feeling, first impression that I have when I look into these things, like my things, etc. And then there's a question or saying.
Yeah, actually, I understand, but I don't know if I understand super well.
Like me.
So what I understand is that this selflessness is like the I that don't depend on anything, and that is, and like if he can explain or go little deep in this selfness, this concept
of not depending on anything, this I that doesn't depend on anything.
This is the only thing that I understand in here, no? If I have to make like the synthesis.
Quindi di da cosa di garanzo di lenghi da di rangato per me pa di io tank antes so io riesco a tornare
Da meba insert sore kanel.
e con credo son con da me pa rangato me pa dare la son
meba.
quindi che antes so son tornare
Yeah.
rangato per me pa ti deve rangato per me pa
Ranjete ziyo dame ba ranjinji me ba se.
yeah rangato per io ranjinji
Tanga dagi kanu shwe na shi nga so ranjin ka tatang de kar do se chikche. Ranjin ka tatang di no le ya pe isha tsapu so so ka te samna tana kari she gre so. Te jangja so pa sha yang jangja so nga so jili jangja ju. Lo jang che ja so. Ta de ma yin ba so so tambo so so kanji shi ta go yo na. 디 삼로디 야보 이제 잡고 수수디 거는 양내 삼로 당터나 당이 따당데 가르다기도 생디 소소 가는 건지 제도 그래서는 게 알아 이어봐야 돼 나랑 뭔지 제야 돼 스크는 마투바 그런 저 사니 면조 잠발은 사니 면조시 그런 솔id bad 뭐지 자와치 무시무시 더라 그런 개짱 개짱 쭈보 됐다고 요바데 양내 삼로다는 됐다 디간에 소소과 야리야리 도레스.
Yeah, so this about how the way that we perceive the I in this very deep way, about how does it exist. So if we think very, very deeply and very think very deeply about how the I exists, and leaving aside the studies, leaving aside what we have heard about what is the I, etc. Just saying how does it appear to us? The way that it's going to appear, it's going to be an I that has completely no relationship whatsoever to anything. So a very solid I, a very hard, very solid I. Appears in Japore and yeah, like it's by itself, this I is alone. There's an alone I. It's not that this I exists by itself in the universe, it's not this, but it's the I exists alone, not actually related to anything else. And then if we habituate, if we try to, we improve our capacity to analyze how this I exists without the influence of our background, etc. How does it exist? Then we can get a better and better understanding of how this I appears to us.
Yeah, that's it. The honest say sure. That's why some tambo ranjin karyopat. The condition was it in the the tambo thing was thing on the course. Thing was a tone that things about Nashi to them into city.
Being very honest, you have to be very honest when you do this analysis, because it's the way that it naturally shows up to us. And then after we can understand, after we can say, oh, this is how it's showing to me, my I, then we can go to the next step of, does it exist? Does it not exist?
Oh, the Nashi Yorio Maris, the Nambita to Connection, so Pekit Ranjawa Nashisha Nashing, the Omares.
And then what Buddhist philosophy is going to say is that this way that it's showing up to you, this independence, this aloneness doesn't exist.
That maybe to check Chitoni, Rupa Shis, Rupa Sumse, Rupa Dinse, then the Mambo Jores, that is almost it. And then
there are a few methods in this second stage in Buddhist philosophy. There are the 3 reasonings, I don't know about this, or the 7-point reasoning. And then, but if we go into all these methods, maybe it's a bit confusing now.
Yeah. Yeah, forget tang jingle was so some tang chodo, capchodo. Some tang service, such orders in a counter. So God, some tang goris, and the chick dig on this station at Jericature. But the young the chick Tapshi Mamboshi. Ko the maybe can say Mamboshi in the ship Mamboyores in the ship. That in the ship so go in your door. Tandangazo Tambo can Tamboni the conversation. Tambo was a desk. Just some Tangsa Shisona. Tinishini was a
yeah, so first now what we are doing in this class is seeing, like, we are trying to analyze about what we're going to think, we are thinking about, or some of them or the place, the basis of all these thoughts, if that makes sense for you. Yeah, what we are thinking about, like what area we are thinking about, like just getting the perimeter of this area. And then on top of this, then there are many explanations, many reasonings, many ideas, many things on Buddhist philosophy that on a second stage we can put once we have delimited the area that we're doing, or what's the you understand the racetrack. Another, yeah.
So does the idea of selflessness also relate to the idea that we're all connected, or are those 2 different things?
Okay, we're all connected.
Yeah, don't remember some of the Sosachiba Mayimamaso, Tamchak down some of the
Yes, selflessness, yeah. We're not Jibuma, but also.
And it should Tamchak then, should condition did the someone die.
Yes, so yeah, the selflessness is about us not being alone. In the sense, he used the word alone, not being alone, and not only connected to other people, connected to everything else that there is.
Yeah, taking it, you know, the on the shit. Then the dame was it, and that chick Shamba Soleta. Che Sosa Mayimba, Sosa Yingole, Vichala, Karina, the Sole, Tangaso, young, Rang, Taki Gangshuanashi, Tambo, Soso, Tony, condition Tagayur. So Tatang condition. Get the debris in a Tangaso. Money Tamashina was a bed, Tam, chanting the tips, Diana. Some no career, Corona, me, Nani Drayo, remains to wear. Money Chanang, dip the condition, my is it in a condition Tamata. When you bet, but she keep basic to me and yours.
The doming.
They made you the muscle ranching. Ranchon was in Jamie's tour.
For example, if you look at this book, like if you think, how do we perceive this book? So if we're very honest with ourselves, like how does it spontaneously come to us? How do we think? We see this book, we see there's no connection, like there's no connection between me and this book. So that's the way we perceive.
Yeah. Taina when is a tip the condition chamacha, tip the condition you may use it. The tip the condition. Thank you. Eugene. Eugene Dylan. Then they are about Eugene Martin Betips.
But how does this book actually exist? So this book exists independent, this object exists independent of a subject. So there is a strong relationship between the subject and the existence. Without the dependence on the subject, this object as you're perceiving doesn't exist.
Yeah. Taina, the tip the lecture condition tagaris, the interest. Condition to tip tagaris. Pena chick, Perapajana, tip the chick chochignita, choshambanita, common rush to pencil to Rapasia. Take us is in a tatang gone corn, and it pasho the Mudraji Toy at the Tigon series.
That's only choke.
Comrade to do that. They carriage is only Kokanishita Matas.
For example, to give a very, very coarse, very superficial example. For example, I can look at this book from this side, and he is looking. He is looking at the book from the other side, and we're seeing we're having different experiences. We're seeing, yeah. So it's related to the perspective. For example, the angle that I'm seeing this book. So there is this relationship going.
And you change the name Tamodan Rapasi Mambush Rambayor. Rape on it, general view, Chena, young Condon Chicory. Tate my imba money, and it shuts up, make it Donna. They are Tatan Locaret, make it weird and better.
And for example, there are also many levels of mind. There are coarse levels of mind, and there are subtle levels of mind, and there are many characteristics of the mind. So if we just look with a coarse mind to the book, then it's just like a piece of thing, right? It's just a piece of thing. And but if you look at it with a subtle mind, the object also changes completely. What this object is changes completely.
Yeah. The Namji Matsu Manchi Samuraba Samuraba Gondre Kabla, and each Mabush and remains to Gores, and we in Salatin Maris.
Usually we act in life using more coarse aspects of our mind, coarse minds, and then we see this as having no relationship, but that's not the way that things actually exist.
Yeah. The pen touching deep tell Tatan Chicken, Candida to the Koran Mama Chesh Chore. Koran way needs a caress. I need to think Nepal map Pamdona, deep tea, than the Nanjan the Omaris.
For example, one example, if we get this book, and then we go looking deep and deep and deep and deep and deep, and we look into more and small parts, the smallest parts of this book, then when we come back, it's a completely different thing. Like if you look at the atoms of this book, and then we go back and we look at it into a coarse way, it's like it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. Go the Tunga Nepal Pandana, Tipsy at the Omaris.
If you go into the level of the atoms, then this book, the way that we're seeing, doesn't exist.
Because in the Joran Tatan,
because that depends on how you're looking at it. What mind are you using to perceive it?
The only that in the Tatan Rabba Gonita, Tamo Gonita, Nambi, Debani Namshadi.
And then there are presentations, different presentations in Buddhism about how do we perceive things in a coarse way, how do we perceive things in a subtle way.
Yeah, the money is sure.
And these are the two truths, your conventional truth and ultimate truth.
Or the observe the Tindi goni, then you should it must chul patayaka. That they only that country is on the Matsu Tony Kavlet and the Timloina. Matsu Yendam, Jaminjo. Go tip there, second the Matuba Koran tip there. Shankani Ramaleva, Matsu, some low, Tinkis you in your territory. That 10 money or your mares, Kachiti. But then Nambita took it in your mares,
so then we can first identify what is the way that spontaneously, what's the first way that we perceive this book with not being dependent on ourselves, for example, not being dependent. And then we also do the same step as we did with ourselves. So does it actually exist in this way? Then Buddhism is going to say, no, it doesn't exist like this. And this is the selflessness of phenomena. Selflessness of phenomena. Emptiness. Yeah. This is emptiness.
Yes, it will join.
It's okay.
Yes. When you're interested. Yeah.
Like the realization of the selflessness, it's like being all the time with the identity in this center, like in this emptiness. It's like living like this.
Living with the emptiness.
Like the realization of this, it's like having the identity in this space all the time. Is that possible?
And in dagme betopani berang sepenanga sawadi katwinayam di nangshin in dagme pa Geshe nangshin de katwinayam di la de direbe di siparebe. So you're asking if this realization of selflessness, if this realization is staying all the time with this,
like this talk was the realization of this space, right? So this is so it's like living with the identity in this center of this like empty space.
You mean living, like having the identity with the I that exists, which we talked before, completely without the I that doesn't exist.
Sorry?
Living completely without the I that doesn't exist is independent I. Yes? Sorry.
But English,
Okay.
to me, I is impermanence and all the I impermanence because we will go through aging, dying, and all the different stages of the I is impermanent because every minute, every second is changing. So that is impermanent, the changes. Yeah. So the I, we go through the changes because today I and tomorrow I is different. Because today I look at you and tomorrow I look at you. In normal people it's the same, but actually you already changed.
This I understand, of course, it's life, but the selflessness, it has to be with something that is permanent, right? Or not?
All phenomena are impermanent. All phenomena meaning that everything that we see actually is impermanent, go through changes. But we cannot see naked eyes, but they actually change. Even the chair, the mattress here, the seat, it changed. Today and tomorrow is different.
Yeah, that's I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think when you reach enlightenment, then you have but until then.
For example, name. My name is Perry. Yeah, Perry. It's just P-A-R-R-Y. But this yet is just a label.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be A, I can name B. So the A, B, C, D is just a label.
Yes, this is, I understand. Maybe I'm confused. This space of selflessness is something permanent or the impermanent self?
Da me pa se da me pa ne jo ta yu ma res. Ya, jo chun ta jo da me pa jo da me na. Da ne jo ta yu. Da se ma ne jo yu re. Ya, yu bi da se. Ta yu bi da se na ki nga da shi. It's impermanent. You know,
So-
then jo ta yu.
Self. But where is the
Tengo
self?
en
So
Oh, sorry.
No,
It's
sorry,
just,
it's
because the question is selflessness. So I'm just trying to say that selflessness in the first place, we have to point out the self as the self.
Yes.
But where is the self? This is the self, this is the self, this is the self. They are made up of many parts, right? Parts to make up this body, but none of this is self. So when you're talking about selflessness, you have to point the self, but where is your self? And in the cell is made up of particles, various fine particles, and atoms where you have to use them. If you look at them from the microscope, it's actually all the atoms. We make up of all the atoms. There is no such thing as a person called Perry. No, because it's made up of all the atoms, but what you see is just conventional, a person called Perry.
yes, so thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, no, thank you. So to your question, you were saying that you said that selflessness. So selflessness as the self, the wrong way of existing of the self, not existing. This doesn't change. So it's not changing moment by moment. But the I that exists, yourself that exists, this is impermanent. Just the I that exists as a name.
Yeah.
The I that exists as a name, as she was saying, this is impermanent.
Names are that. Tanya tabat sam good. Me tani ngas chak. Ming rong relation and go. It's name relation.
Okay, he's correcting me because he's saying that to say that the I exists as the name, that's not okay. But the I exists,
Ming wall and what's nekur. Ming wall. Ming wall decor.
like
It's title.
like there is the name and the I exists under it. That's how you say. Yeah.
The I and the essence of I. So the I is the pure I is when you strip out all the conditions that affect it and make like life, knowledge, everything. You strip all those ones out and you find the real true pure I, right? But in order to find that, you need to acknowledge all those other things that makes it affect it.
You have to strip them away.
Right, like you can straight, like people say, you can go meditate straight to the emptiness of I without realizing what is affecting, what's shaping the I that you project, in a way. And like for the book, from what I got, like because the object and subject are connected or affected, so this book exists because I exist. And therefore the book exists because I give the book a value. And the more I go into deeper into what the book is and get rid of like, okay, it's paper, this, I find the essence. And that's why we're all connected. Because when you strip all the stuff that we create around us, in the end, the essence is the same.
Yeah, di dewa yore kaisina ngadi minta Tsering ngadi di debre minta ki minta ye ni ya di tsu tsama Geshe di tsu tsama nga chena ni ya di ya yeah
no yon sama pa pini ani da tsama shirase ti kache ramar ni she tang su identify che shura su ngonzi che su samla na nga se kandishi samla tangadu nga se kandishi samla kogu tu se te tangbo su rangshin kar tu se te ngonzi che la ani lo yon sa pa sha se tangbo tangbo changjang chini shik ta se kyora jangaya su te jima kache ti influence menjo che kyora nga samla ranga na nga kyora kandishi tangadu ti ngonzi che kore se ti ngonzi che to na ti karish ta kore se ngonzi sakana to make ngasiashi.
Yeah. So about the first part of you said, so you said that you take off, you strip away all these conditions, all the studies, etc., and then you reach this pure I. Yeah. So yeah, the way what I was saying is that for you to identify, for you to see the way that you experience your I right now, the way that it shows up to you. So you take off all these things, so you take the studies, etc., concepts, to see the way that you naturally think of your I, the way that you naturally comes to you. And this I is the independent I. This is not dependent on anything.
Yeah. So kanji tongkore se odi pe sakang ma tu ba. Tinishi ta ngoni tamo tana ta tin do shi yo pan zum. Sakang ma tu ba te pe sa chu shi sam. Yondi ta ti jine ma so ta te son kyupche. Ta te ne kanji.
Yeah. So yeah, look, if you look in a very subtle way, you find this I that's not dependent on anything, and this I becomes something very, very precious. And after this, you protect this I. Then you have to protect this I. And because of this I, then problems arise. And then according to Buddhist philosophy, according to the view of the Buddhist philosophers, this I that you find, this I, doesn't exist. This I is a mistake. That this way of saying this I is wrong. Yeah, when you think, oh, this I exists like this, that's wrong. This feeling is wrong. Right? This I not existing, selflessness. This I not existing, selfless. Maybe not so confusing. Maybe we stopped here.
Too much.
It's already 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Oh.